Hey everyone, how you doing? All right. I went to an air show yesterday and I figured I would just kind of talk about the experience. I've always enjoyed aviation, flight, basically anything that flies. I've always been into it. Just had a natural, interest in it. So I've gone to a lot of air shows. Not a lot, maybe like five or six. I guess not that many by some people's standards, but enough to know what they're like. And I've always enjoyed them. So this one was different. Um, I guess because of this whole process and how this is all happening and how it's progressing over time, I see things more now. So my vision is totally different than it used to be. So the world doesn't look like it used to look to me, which is probably how it looks to you. Maybe a little bit different now to you, but it the world looks very very different to me now compared to the way I grew up. For 43 years it looked a certain way, and then everything changed, and ever since then it's been getting progressively more different, not in a good way, in a bad way. So kind of comparing it to like holy, heavenly standards, this is a far shot from it. But what it comes down to is I can see things now, and the world is totally, it's like a veil was lifted off, and now I can see this place, for the way it is, comparatively speaking. So I just wanted to talk about that. So I went to the air show. Before I got there, one funny thing, I went to Target. This is kind of humorous. Not really, if you think about it. Um, a girlfriend, she wanted to get some kind of candy or something. I don't know what she wanted. We were going down that aisle. Maybe it's peanut butter. We're going down that aisle. We thought it might be there. But we passed by the essentially what I've always called like the sugar section, because that's what it is, right? It's just sugar in different forms, which is terrible for our bodies and causes, obesity and diabetes and a host of other conditions. You can go look that up. It's very scary. They have lots of documentaries on it. But at Target, it was hilarious because they had it and there was like a little sign over it. And I think it said like packaged sugar. I thought it was so funny. I'm like, packaged sugar. I was like, that's exactly what it is. You see all the different forms of it, maybe chewables or crunchies, whatever it is. But it's just packaged sugar. That's what it is. I should have looked up, how many billions of pounds we either import or export a year. I should have looked that up, but maybe next time. I just thought it was funny, packaged sugar. What an honest way. So good on you, Target, for being honest with your advertising. That's what it is. So, but after that, so before I even got to the air show, we were going to take the buses down there because parking is tough down at the beach. So I went and we were going to carpool with the buses. They had the buses set up. We got the tickets. So as I'm waiting in line for the buses, there's hundreds upon hundreds of people out there, and they're all waiting in line. So I get to see, how everyone's dressed, which looks very strange to me now. So I look around, girls and guys, right? Showing off their knees, showing off their thighs, wearing skin tight clothing, leaving nothing to the imagination, accentuating, the butt and the thighs and everything else in that region. So almost everyone, not all, but almost everyone didn't have their knees covered. Guys and girls had on like skin tight clothing, more so the females, but guys too, like the muscle shirt guys, things like that. So everyone was showing off their bodies. You could see all of their chests. You could see all of their shoulders, spaghetti straps. They had the midriffs on, showing everything off, and the stomach. The backs were cut open, so you could see the backs. Lots of skin showing, like very immodest dress, right? Not modest at all, not holy. Very immodest, very like this world, like this place, in its current state, configuration. So that's the first thing I noticed. And it wasn't a one-off. It wasn't one or two people. It wasn't 10 people. It wasn't 20. It was almost everyone. It was hundreds, all of them, almost everyone. I saw very few people that were dressed in what I would consider like modest clothing, humble clothing. It all seemed like this place. And everyone had on, really fancy, elaborate, striking jewelry and things like that, and gold and stones and precious items. Nothing not much modest and humble about anybody out there. A few people, but not many. A lot of the cars in the parking lot, luxury vehicles, things that people don't need, things of excess and luxury all over the place. But that's everywhere I drive. That's this world in general. So, but yeah, a lot of that, a lot of hair colors, like strange, elaborate hair colors, just nothing humble. Very augmented bodies. I'm sure there were like augmentations of all kinds out there. But who knows? All kinds. Just a lot of vanity. A lot of vanity, a lot of pride, self-centeredness. Yeah, it's just this place. So it was rough. It was rough. And the way they were dressed, it's going to lead to sexual immorality for sure, because that's what they're advertising, right? They're advertising sex, the way they're dressed. And it wasn't just the parents, it was the kids too. This is a family event, it's an air show. It's very, friendly for like families to go and take it, because there was no cost for it, aside from getting the tickets if you wanted to take the bus ride. So it was cheap and you can get your family to go. But the kids, they were dressed just like the parents, because the parents are the ones that are supposed to be showing the children how to live. And the parents, the mothers and fathers, were all dressed inappropriately in unholy, immodest clothing. So guess what? The kids do the same thing, because the parents are role modeling for the kids. So the kids are all dressed, they're growing up watching mom dress in very inappropriate ways. Basically selling herself to the world by body parts and how she looks and how much makeup she can cake on her face and how pretty she can get her hair and how much luxury jewelry she can hang off her ears and things like that. So they're watching their mothers and fathers augment their bodies in such a way to make themselves more presentable, to attract a mate or to puff up their pride. For whatever reason they do it. It's just vanity. So the children learn vanity and pride from their parents. And their parents are already like this. So when the kids grow up, they're going to see like their mother and father and be like, this is how I'm supposed to dress. This is how I'm supposed to operate. If I'm a girl, I want to be like a beauty pageant queen. I want to have like a short mini skirt on. I want to have a low cut shirt, so I can show off my stomach and my rock hard abs. I want to have like beautiful jewelry on and necklaces and have my hair done up and like a $200, haircut. Have it all dyed, right? Fancy, have it dyed and make nothing natural. Make it all augmented, make it all airbrushed and beautiful, so that you can be sexually attractive to the opposite sex and so that you can feel good about yourself, to pump up your vanity and your pride. And that's what they're learning from their kids. So the kids grow up and they want to be princesses and princes. They want to be fully super muscular and look amazing so they can attract as many mates as possible and have sex, which leads to just kids outside of marriage, which has a whole host of problems that goes along with that. But it's all sexualized. It's a very vain sexual thing. And they're learning it from their parents. So I saw kids running around dressed as inappropriately as their mothers and fathers. Both. Guys running around with no shirt on at all. Just, going to the beach. So they had their short shorts on, showing off their knees and thighs and everything else. They were tight, showing up all their butt and all that. It's the same thing. Guys and girls, it's the same thing. Right? They're vain. They want to show off their bodies. They're prideful. And they're sexualized. They're advertising themselves, as sexual objects, which is why they're objectifying certain parts of their body. It was very, very sad to see. And that's before I got to the beach. So just to stay on topic with that point, once I got to the beach, it was even worse. They had daughters and mothers walking around in what essentially were G-strings. No! Stop. Which were essentially G-strings. Almost no clothing on. And these were little tiny girls. These are like baby girls. I don't want to guesstimate on the age, but I don't know. 8, 10. These were small girls. And they were dressed in two-piece bathing suits with almost nothing on, dressed as badly as their mothers were. Their mothers had on super tight tops, right? Pushing up parts of their body, advertising them for the whole world to see. Trying to create lust in everyone, whether they know it or not, right? Creating lust. It's their vanity, it's their pride, and they're sexualizing everybody around them by the way they choose to dress. They're dressed as if they're trying to have sex, because that's how they're advertising themselves. They're dressed in very unholy attire, extremely. Knees not covered, of course. They're at the beach, so they didn't have their knees covered. The guys had on super short shorts. They're walking around with their shirts off. No girl should be walking around with her shirt off. No guy should be walking around with his shirt off. You should have your body dressed in a holy manner, in a humble manner, even at the beach, as strange as that's going to seem to you. That's how you would do it if you want to live in a holy way, in accordance with God's wishes for us and what's best for us. Not in G-string bikinis, two tops, tight clothing, showing off everything, sexualizing the entire populace. And the worst part is that we're training our kids to do it. It's bad enough that we're doing it, but we're training our kids to do it. So our kids grow up and they're vain. They advertise themselves as sexual objects, which is probably going to lead to sexual immorality, right? Because you're going to have a guy who's going to come up to you. And why is he coming up to you? Because you're dressed like a pinup girl. And you're showing off everything. You're sending signals out that you're looking for sex the way you're dressed. Because you're accentuating sexual parts of your body, right? The back, the front, everything. And this is guys and girls. There were plenty of guys running around with no shirt on. You could tell their vanity was very, very high. They're very prideful. They spend lots of time in the gym getting their chest and their muscles and everything where they need it to be so they can take their shirt off and run around the beach. So it's not just for the girls, even though I'm probably a little biased because I'm a guy, right now. So you can understand, but trust me, it was the guys too. And they were just as bad. Running around, jogging, shorty shorts on, all the way up their thigh, no shirt on. Same thing, guys and girls, no shirts. Girls had a few ounces of clothing on. It's awful. This is an unholy paradise that we live in currently. Fixable, yes. But as it stands, this is bottom floor material. And, that's why we need a savior, because this place is horrible. You just can't see it. And probably as time goes on, I'll see even more. And I don't even want to anymore. It's already bad enough. The veil's already been ripped off, but I don't want it ripped off anymore. I hope this is all I can see, but I guarantee you it's not. This process is going to take a while to play out. And already, I feel like I live on a different planet. I feel like I don't belong here because of everything that goes on here. Even though I'm human, and I still have sins, and I'm working on me too. But even then, this place is foreign. This is not the place I grew up, not with what I can see now. So it's very scary. Will I ever go to an air show again? Probably not, just to be honest. It's very hard for me to even go out in public anymore. Just because when I do, I have to see all of these people, these mothers and their daughters, fathers and their sons, just everyone in general. I have to see how they dress. And that's the first thing that hits me, is when they come up and I can see how they're dressed. Whatever slogans they might have on their t-shirts, however tight their clothing might be, however they're acting, the alcohol in their breath, the weed that I can smoke, smell just wafting off of them as they're walking around. It's very difficult to go out in public because it feels so foreign to me now. And it makes this place seem so dirty just to see how we operate. And I never saw it before. I never would have. I never would have. And then that's part of the process. That's part of the experience. Obviously, to come down here and live it, and then, have the veil ripped away, and then see what you've been living in, which is a den of sin. And our culture is built around it, and our laws are built by sinful people. So you can imagine, how that works as far as greed goes, and envy and greed, and which leads to war. So then you get murder. This place is a den of iniquity. And I grew up in it and had no idea. I mean, I knew things were wrong, but you accept it as just a normal, regular person. You're like, oh, of course, you're always going to have wars. You're always going to have adultery. You're always going to have, people dressing, which, trust me, back in the day, I would have said it was normal. I would have said it's normal. You go to the beach, you're looking for the thongs. You're looking for the short shorts. That's how you think when you grow up here, when you're born in this place. It's normal. You're like, oh, there'll always be theft. People will always lie, People are always going to overindulge. People are always going to be prideful. You're used to it because of where you are and the fact that you grew up here in this swamp. I was thinking that maybe, percentage-wise, I think the Christians, we'd be okay there, and we'd mainly be focusing on, the Hindus and the Sikhs and, the Muslims and everyone else, and the atheists, agnostics, all those too. But I thought, I'd be focusing on those. It's not like that. It feels like I have to save like 99%, which means a complete overhaul of this place. And they said, oh, would you leave the 99 to go find one sheep? Well, the problem is I have to wrangle up 99 sheep, and there might be one sheep that's okay. That's the reality of the situation. I'm not leaving the 99 to go find one. I'm leaving the one to go find the 99 because of how messed up this place is. And why is it that it took 2,000 years to get back here and come back in? I guess I have executive privilege, and I can do that. But clearly, most of the time, I'm separated from this place. So it might explain why it's in such bad condition and why it needs to be remodeled. We were, reminds me, we were on the way to the air show, and we passed by this building. I was in the bus, so you're able to look around. I'm not driving. I was able to look around, and I looked over, and there was this building, and they had gutted this thing, completely gutted this building. The shell was there, right? It was I think it was concrete block or concrete brick, the big ones, like cinder blocks. So it was sturdy, it was good. The foundation was good, the walls were good, but they had everything blown out of this building, and I mean everything. It probably had a roof. So it had a roof. It had the cinder blocks all around, big, sturdy cinder blocks were good. The foundation was good. They hadn't chopped that up, but they blew this building out. There was nothing in it. I mean, even where the windows go, it was gone. It was just the cinder blocks on the outside. That's all they kept. And the roof, I think they kept the roof. They hadn't taken it off, but they'll probably do that too. So literally they just kept the shell. And then everything else they were going to have to put back in there and rehab it. And that's what this feels like. Because initially I was thinking, well, the Christians will be okay, so we don't have to worry about them. They'll be good to go. But that's really not the case. Because trust me, I've been to churches which are absolutely infested with greed. The church is like, to some, a money-making industry. I'm not saying all of it, but there are definitely swindlers out there. Trust me, plenty of them. But even then, just the way that they're dressed, and holy is a whole different level than I go to church once a week. I carve out an hour for God a week. That's it. I put on my good shoes, my good suit, my everything. I go out there for 1 hour and I'm good. that's not the case. Like holy living is way different than living like you're here. It's very, very different. Especially concepts like pride and greed and envy and things like that. They're in sexual immorality and just the dress, just a holy dress code and living in a humble way. It's totally different. If you grew up here, most people wouldn't understand it at all. It would seem very strange, which is why this place is in so much need of help. It's in desperate need. But that's it. So they had the building. It was completely blown out. They're going to keep, the parts they could, and everything else they're going to have to kind of build out. And that's what this feels like at this point, because it's not leaving the 99 to find one. Unfortunately, it's leaving that one to go find the 99. They're easy to find. And that's why it's hard to even go out in public now, because I feel like I'm walking around in a bad place. A very low floor. And it's fixable. It will take time. It will take people to dramatically change. And that's going to have to be everyone, including the politicians, who are probably some of the most sinful people around. And a lot of the people that have lots of money, it's going to be very, very difficult for them. It'll probably be easier for the people that have less than it will be for the people that have a lot. Because a lot of times when you get money like that, you make a lot of moral and ethical concessions to get that money. And you become hardened to the problems of people below you. And that's why I think volunteering and service work is so important and expected. It's absolutely expected. And it keeps you grounded with how people live, not just the people, in your country club or in your little neighborhood of McMansions. I think it's very good for everyone to go out and do service work. I know the nurses, I think they make you do that to get your service hours. It's absolutely required. I mean, if you're living a holy life and you're here to serve others and not serve yourself, you would be doing it anyway. So it doesn't even need to be a commandment. You're just expected to do it. And I think it's going to help everyone. It helps me dramatically to go out. Sometimes I'll be feeling bad about myself, and you see like other people have problems, and it just keeps you grounded in servicing others and not so focused on yourself. All right. Your pride and your greed and, your lust for things and your envy of other people because you're worried about yourself and your indulgences. You're worried about you. So the key is to get out of you and start worrying about others. It's very important. And then, so we get back on topic. I don't want this to drag on too long. I hate eating up all your time. So we get down to the air show. Of course, everyone's dressed inappropriately. There are some boisterous people. I would appear they're on alcohol. So it could have been alcohol. I smelled weed all over the place. There's, booze, intoxicants. Everyone's on intoxicants. It's almost like a 4th of July kind of feel, where everyone's they're out for themselves, They're just out there for them. They're out there to have fun. They're out there to drink. And then also watch the jets fly around. And as the jets are flying around, before the jets, let's get before the jets. So before the jets, there were some boats that came out, some Navy boats. And this I'd never seen before. I think they had they did have dummy rounds in, so you could hear them like blanks. So these boats are flying around and they're circling around each other, chasing each other around. But instead of normal, like an air show where you just see them go around and the kids love it and you love it, you're like, oh, this is great. Look at the ships. They got Navy on them or Air Force, whatever's going on. They're like, oh, look how cool this is. You can see them moving around. But this was different because these boats weren't just driving around showing you how impressive the mechanics are and everything. They weren't just doing that. They had blanks in and they were shooting each other. So as the boats are driving around, they're on there like a 50 cal or whatever kind of guns they were. I don't know what they were, but they were big. And they were just shooting each other. And everyone, the kids are sitting around watching this. The parents are like, oh, this is amazing. And they're all videotaping it. And these boats are running around with each other and they both have guns. And they're just they're literally shooting each other. So the kids are out there and the parents are out there watch these boats go around and commit mock murders against each other. So it's a mock murder scene is what it was. And it just shows you how awful war is, because we can't figure out how to love each other and respect each other. And these were all Navy boats, so there wasn't like a good guy, bad guy kind of situation here where they're painted different. They were all the same colors and everything. But they were just riding around, and all the boats were looking at each other, just shooting each other. It was the craziest thing I've ever seen. And the kids were enjoying it. They're like, oh yeah, the kids are loving it. The parents are loving it. And these military like folks are just sitting there killing each other. It was fake, but they were simulating what would happen in a war situation where you had boats going around and just just shooting each other. It's very surreal, and we're glorifying military vehicles killing people while we're sitting on the beach, while people are dressed in very, very inappropriate ways, where they're drinking alcohol, not smoking weed on the beach, but you could smell it. People had it. So people are getting intoxicated. People are watching mock murder, and they're enjoying it. You know, they're having a good time. This is considered family friendly. This is a family friendly event where you can bring your children in their, dental floss bathing suits, and they can sit around in very unholy ways, and they can watch military members mock kill each other while they're riding around on the boats, getting everyone interested, and they're loving it. They're just on the machine guns, just like killing each other. And then after that, they brought in like one of those big cigarette boats, like Miami Vice style, one of those big nice ones. And I guess that was supposed to be like a drug runner. That was the example they were showing, the act. So they had that come in, and then they had the National Guard helicopter come in, and it was like chasing them around, or Coast Guard was one of the two. And it was chasing them around, and you had the cigarette boat, which was kind of like a drug runner running around. So the kids are watching this too. So we're simulating like a drug run where the National Guard is coming in, and the Coast Guard, and they're chasing them around. And then all of a sudden, those boats that I mentioned before, they come back in. So they come flying in a left field, and then they're running around with their 50, just like shooting them. So they're circling around, the helicopter's chasing them, and the Navy's just sitting there shooting them, just shooting them. And the kids are loving it. The parents are loving it, the husbands, the wives, just people, just men, women. Everyone's rooting them on. This is awesome. It's pro-America. Everyone had their American Pride t-shirts on, and all of the slogans that go along with that, all the country pride. And you're watching them. It's fake, but it's a mock murder of somebody who's sinning by carrying drugs and intoxicants in a fancy, luxurious boat. It was just the strangest thing. It felt so dirty to be down there around these folks. And I know they can't see it. I couldn't see it. So I get it. I didn't see it for my whole life. But it felt so dirty to be down there. And my mom was there. And she was loving it. She was acting just like I acted every other time I've gone. Hey, no. She was acting like I did every other time I've gone. Like very pro-American. Everyone's got their American flag t-shirts on, and their hats, and yeah, everyone's happy. And everyone's just very proud of their country. And they're watching, and their kids are watching these military boats drive around and kill each other. And then they killed someone in a cigarette boat carrying, I guess, drugs is the way they were portraying it. So you got drugs and violence and firearms, and then you got the military aspect of it, right? That's just that part. So let's get to the military. And then you have the best part, right? You have the Blue Angels come in, and they start flying all over the place, and everyone loves it. But I think we love it for the wrong reason. Like, we love it because it looks cool. You can see them come in. It's impressive. The machinery that they have, it's just impressive to see how they can come in and like get so low to the ground and then go up and get like a really high AOA and go flying up in the air and, flipping it over, and they got the smoke coming out of the engines. So people like that part of it. But the part they're not thinking about, which is why I'm glad they had the boats actually shooting the guns. Because when the kids see it, all they see is the boats normally. It's just the boats like running around. you know, and they're like, oh, it's impressive, and they jump the waves and they're going over, oh, it's impressive because the kids love it and the parents love it too. But the fact that they had those blank rounds in and they were just aiming at each other and just shooting over and over and killing the people in the other boats, it really brought it home like what that equipment is for. You know, those boats with those big 50 cals in the front or whatever kind of guns they are, they're not meant for just driving around and watching sunsets and sunrises, and transportation is part of it. But, you know, those are also attack boats. They're built to attack. Hey, like they're built to attack. And when you see them actually do what they were built for, at least one of their major functions, it's only a deterrent because it can kill you, right? So when you see them doing that, it feels so dirty. We're like glorifying death and shooting and killing people. It's so sad, and everyone loved it. Kids were happy, the parents were happy, everyone was happy. My mom was happy. They don't see it, and I didn't see it until now. And I really shudder to think what I'll be able to see like in 4 years, or however long, and however long this takes. But I mean, if my eyes are already open this much now, what's this going to be like in 4 years? I can barely go out in public now because I feel so sad for this place. It's pitiful. And I can't even look around because everywhere I look, there's someone dressed in extremely unholy ways, showing themselves off as sexual objects, marketing sex. So it's terrible. But getting back to the aircraft, so the Blue Angels are flying around. But as they're flying around, I had a really good seat. We were by the pier that was going out, so we were by the pier, and that was like their main performance area. So these jets would come in like, you know how they do, they sneak attack you, they come in from behind while you're watching other planes go up in the air. They'll come up from behind and come behind you and like come right off the beach. I mean, like super low, and just fly over you. And all I could think about while they were doing this is that I've flown a flight simulator for years, a military flight simulator, not like Microsoft Flight Simulator, which I'll definitely switch over to that one. I want not to make it an idol and get too far involved in it, but just every now and then just to kind of de-stress a little bit. But I've flown a military flight simulator, F-18s, F-16s, and A-10s. Those were the main ones that I flew. And in those, every single mission, the pylons are full, or almost full. You know, you were bombing buildings and vehicles and people and everything. So it's a very violent game. It's a simulator. I mean, technically, you could fly that same plane, and you could go civilian style and just take all the pylons off, and you could just fly it around like a flight simulator. And for that, it would be great because it's super realistic. I mean, every button in there you can click. It's extremely difficult to learn how to play. And then in a military aircraft, you're doing that. You need to know how to like land, take off from carriers from the ground, the radar. You got all the offensive weapons you got to figure out. It's a lot. But you could run it with just the pylons and not take any weapons. But I don't think anyone plays that game that way. It's probably a lot of ex-military folks that play it, and just, you know, aviation enthusiasts and things like that, military enthusiasts. But no one flies them like that. Everyone flies them loaded to the brim with weapons to go down and mock kill people. Granted, they're enemies in the scenarios you set up, but still, you're flying around just blowing things up constantly. So because of my background in military flight simulators, very realistic ones, as close as you can get civilian, that I could afford, as the Blue Angels are flying over with their pretty paint schemes, and I've even flown those schemes in my military missions, I would even put those schemes on there, oddly enough, just because I'd seen them. So when they're flying over and they're coming down straight at us and all this, all I can think about is what it would be like to be those folks in Palestine right now. So the Palestinians in Gaza, what would it feel like? Because the kids are loving it. Everyone's loving it out there. My mom's loving it. Everyone's loving these planes flying around. But those planes aren't designed to fly around with the pylons empty. Maybe electronic warfare, if they happen to be in that role, but typically I would guess those planes, if they're in theater, always have something on them when they're flying around. Missiles, bombs, cluster munitions, something. They're always going to have something on there, I would guess. They're not just flying around. So as much as people love them, and the kids idolize those people and they want to come up and be Blue Angels, I don't think an angel would ever have 500 or 1,000-pound or 2,000-pound bombs that they want to drop on people. I understand that this place is what it is. So you have a lot of nasty, evil-minded people here that do things because they're selfish and they don't care about other people. That's how it is today anyway. It won't always be like that, but today that's how it is. So I understand that you need a military as it stands, today. But it just seems very odd that we love to go out there and watch these planes fly around and we disregard what they're actually used for. Or we think it's great. We really like the fact that those planes can fly around and like blow up a lot, right? They can take entire buildings down. They can blow people up. They can shoot white phosphorus and burn people up. Maybe that's why a lot of those people were cheering, but I'm pretty sure a lot of them liked it just because it's impressive to see like the skill of these pilots, how hard it is to be like, 18, 20 inches away from the other plane and somehow keep that formation and go. Like, it is so impressive what they can do and the coordination they can act in and what they can make that plane do without crashing. Like, that part of it, the acrobatic part of it, is super impressive. And that part of it is nice. But just given what's going on in the world right now, as those planes are flying over me and they're coming in on me and stuff like that, and the fact that you add in my experience of many years of being a virtual military pilot in a simulator that's as close as you can get to the real deal as a civilian, I cannot help but think as those planes are flying over how absolutely helpless I would be if they were to drop 500, 1,000, 2,000-pound munition, shoot me with just the guns. You would have absolutely no chance. They move so fast. And they can come in from behind buildings and sneak around, do low-level runs on you. You are absolutely helpless. If those planes fly over you and they decide that they want to just bomb you and just drop bombs all over your city, drop your entire building, they could. And there's nothing you can do about it. And everyone in that building is going to die or get crushed. If they're lucky, they'll make it out with only crushed bones, missing limbs, scars, burns, things like that. If they're lucky. That's considered lucky. Because bombs don't care, and your bulletproof vest is not going to help. There's nothing you can do. It's going to blow up everything. It's going to shoot shrapnel all through your body. You're going to have horrific wounds. Probably the best person that could describe it would be maybe a surgeon in Gaza right now. Could explain to you the types of wounds that you're going to see when a bomb goes off. Or anywhere. Not even just Gaza, just anywhere. Any military theater. Those weapons are horrific what they do. And, unfortunately, as of today, I guess we need them just because you have countries like, you have China, you got your Russias, your North Koreas, Iran, places like that. You have countries that they act in very evil ways. They manage their populations in very evil, nasty ways. So, and here it's to be expected, but it doesn't mean that it always has to be that way. So even though we need a military currently, we wouldn't always need them. This place just needs to be completely renovated. Blow out everything from the inside. Change everything. Maybe keep the walls. Technically, the foundation is awful, so that's going to have to get fixed. So you know what? We'll just take the walls down too. This whole thing needs to be rebuilt in a way that God would approve of. Because oddly enough, God knows exactly how we should be living because God designed us. God designed us with a very beautiful image in mind of how things should work and how we should act and how we should treat others, within our family and our communities and everywhere, and how we should live. God knows that because God built us. And God built this place and let us loose in it. And this is what it turned into. This has turned into like a hellish bottom floor location because of our free will and because of sin. Because of our pride and greed and lust and envy and indulgence and wrath and anger and sloth and murder, untruthfulness, adultery, sexual immorality, immodest dress, vanity, theft, dishonor of family and others, idols of all kinds. You see, there's lots there. All kinds. And murder, which includes the animals, because they have souls just like we do. We have a soul in our body. They have a soul in their body. So all in all, this place is absolutely wretched because of our free will and the fact that we have decided to live in sin. Multiple sins, not just one. And this whole place is governed and ruled by sinful people. Usually some of the worst. Because it's kind of strange that you get worse, you get more evil as you get more power and fame and pride and money and things like that. It seems like as you get that, you become even more evil and you'll do worse and worse, more immoral things to keep your power. So they get power hungry after they get, greedy and everything else. Like we just got everything wrong. All of it. We went our own way. We rebelled. We lived for ourselves. We weren't living for others. We weren't in holy service. We were just living for ourselves. And we fell into sin. All of them. And I'll be adding to this list. But this place is a place of rebellion against God's intentions for us. But thankfully, God wants to save us. He wants to remind us of how we should be living so that we can fix this place. Because it's really, really bad. And you can't see it because your eyes haven't been opened. But mine have. So, as a teacher, it's my job to open your eyes. Even though I can guarantee you, you're not going to like what you see. But if you don't understand the position that we're in, it's never going to get fixed. And we're just going to stay trapped here. So, this is going to be a complete remodel. I'm pretty sure we can't keep anything. Maybe the walls, but the foundation is bad. So how do you keep the walls? This is going to be almost like a gut and redo. Not entirely, but close to it. Very close to it. So that's it. I think that's everything I wanted to cover. And I'm sorry, I don't want these to drag on too long. I know people have lives and things like that, so I don't want to eat up your whole day watching this video. But yeah, I think I covered everything. I don't want to rehash it too much. It was very sad. It was a very sad day for me. And my mom enjoyed it. And oddly enough, she was wearing a shirt. I don't even think she realized it. But one of the collars was like pulled over. So she had it like hanging down here off her shoulder with her bra showing. I'm hanging out with my mom and she's dressed like a hussy. So, but that's like everybody. Everyone here dresses in very unholy ways. Men and women. Men, shirts off. Like, I don't want to go through it all again, but this place is rough. But I don't want it to be, seem too negative either. It's fixable. It's fixable. And God loves us enough to come down into this place and help us fix it. And we're not just fixing it for us, not just for selfish reasons. It's not just for us. More importantly, we're fixing it for our kids and grandkids and just people we don't even know, just people in general. We're fixing it for future generations. So yes, we will benefit, but that's not even the point. That's nice, but we're going to create an entirely new world, an entirely new culture based on God's wishes for God's creations. Because I would think that God would have a pretty good idea of how we're supposed to operate to get the most benefit ourselves and for everyone. To live in harmony with the planet and the animals and each other. To get our slice of heaven. To get this place as close to heaven as we can get it. But to do that, it's going to have to be a complete rebuild. We'll keep what we can, but this place is in rough shape. So, but that's it. So, will I ever go to an air show again? Probably not. That wasn't a pleasant experience for me, just to see everyone the way they act. And then I'm sitting there imagining bombs dropping on me like the people in Palestine probably have dropping on their heads tonight. So, we need to change how we operate completely, and how we treat animals and how we treat the planet. We need to live in harmony with each other and all others, and our home that we treat like a dumpster and fill with toxic chemicals and plastics and styrofoams. We're a very strange species that destroys its only home, has one home, and we've destroyed it. And we've infested it with sins, which are destroying us, our bodies physically and spiritually. So we're destroying the planet, we're destroying ourselves physically, and we're destroying our souls. So it's time to change. God wants us to change, and God is going to help us change. We are going to save the planet. We're going to save us as people. We're going to save the animals. And we're going to save our souls. That's the game plan. So please get on God's team so we can get this done as quickly as possible. That's it. Just remember, God loves us, and God wants to provide guidance so that we can save ourselves. That's it. See you next time.